Have said triangles are very, very interesting. So let's take a look at questions 5 through 12 today. So let's see, question number 5. Question 5 through 12, what we have is that I'm going to ask you 5 and 6. I'm going to say order the sides of each triangle from shortest to longest. Okay, so I give you the angles, right? You guys see the measurements of each angle, but then I'm asking to give me the sides, right, from shortest to longest. Now, there's one thing that is very, very interesting. You guys have heard of the 90-degree angle, right? Triangles, right? Let me recall a right triangle. Remember, the biggest angle is 90, the biggest angle. And the biggest side is the hypotenuse. So this is the biggest angle, and this is the biggest side. We have seen this before, right? The biggest angle and the biggest side, because we call that hypotenuse when we talk about right triangles. Now, one thing I want you to notice, the biggest angle is opposite of the biggest side, right? Again, in geometry, opposite means far away. The biggest angle is opposite from the biggest side. Well, guess what? The smallest angle is also opposite from the smallest side. So having that said, let's take a look at number 5. I have the angles and I want to know the sides. I want to order the sides of each triangle from shortest to longest. What I'm going to do, let me find out which is the smallest angle. I see 3 numbers, 35, 65, and 80. I know how to compare numbers. I'm going to say my smallest angle in this case is 35. This side, this angle is the smallest side. This angle is the smallest angle. Now the side that is opposite from that angle, so the side that is farthest away is this side. Okay, I remembered at the beginning of the school year, the beginning of the semester, I showed you guys how to name angles, how to name sides. Now the side, it uses 2 letters. Usually we put a little line segment on top of it, and then I'm going to use both letters, right? Notice how that segment goes from S to R, or you can say it goes from R to S. I'm going to use those 2 letters. I'm going to call it RS. The order of my letters does not matter. So if you guys call it RS or you call it SR, same thing, right? The 2 letters that make that segment, it's RS or SR. When I use those 2 letters, again, the order of the letters does not matter. Usually when we write segment, when we're going to indicate it's a segment, we write a line symbol, a line segment symbol on top. Now on our typing, if this was on paper, then I will say yes. Make sure you do write the line segment on top of RS. That way you indicate side RS. But because our homework is going to be online, we cannot type that. So just type the 2 letters R and S. Do notice I did them in capital letters and they're together. There's no spaces in between them, just RS. Or again, you're going to call it SR. This is your choice. The 2 letters must be capitalized and they're together, no spaces in between. Cool. That's the smallest side. Let me put a comma. Now let me find the medium side. I'm gonna say 65 because remember I'm going from smallest or shortest to longest. Now 65 is the second smallest angle. Now side R, right? That corner is opposite from this side. Now for sides, I have to use 2 letters. That side is made by the letters T and S. Order does not matter. For sides, order does not matter. So I'm gonna call it TS. If you guys call it ST, you're okay. Now the biggest angle, I'm gonna say the biggest angle is 80 degrees. So the biggest side in this case will be TR. That's it. I order the sides. Given the angles, I was able to tell which side was the shortest, medium, and longest. So I was able to order the sides of each triangle from shortest to longest. Let's take a look at question number 6. Angle-wise, 30 degrees is the smallest angle. This angle is opposite from this side. So I'm going to say the smallest side is the side US. The medium side, right, second smallest is 40. 40 is opposite from this side. I can call it either TS or ST. Again, the order of the letters does not matter. So let me call it ST. The biggest angle is 110 degrees. So the biggest side must be this one. Right? The biggest side is opposite from the biggest angle. Now, the two letters that make that side are TU. For your homework, you might see 3 spaces, right? On your homework, when you see it, there's 3 spaces. And there's a comma between the first and the second space, and there's a comma between the second and the third space. That's basically for you to just type this in. I already put in the commas in between them. So that's why you see 3 spaces. Might be like, Mr. Leonzo, why are you doing that? Why are there 3 answers? Because there's 3 sides. My idea is, what if, because I could ask you, name them all. But what if you get the first 2 correct, but then you make a mistake on the third one? If I ask you to write them all at once, just one answer instead of 3 answers, write it all at once. And again, what if you get the first 2 but not the last one? Then Canva is going to mark it incorrect for you. I'm actually asking you to type in each side individually because I want you to get points for those sides that you do get correct. Right? Lose points on the incorrect one, but at least get the points correct for those that you were able to answer. Okay, let's take a look at number 7. Same idea. I'm just going to switch things over. Here, I'm going to ask you, order the angles in each triangle from smallest to largest. So now, I'm giving you the measurement of the sides. I want you to give me the angles. So I'm going to compare the sides. Easy for me to compare numbers, right? There's 3 sides. One side is 21, the other side is 15, the other one is 19. Now, the smallest side is this side. That means the smallest angle is this one. Because remember, the smallest angle is opposite from the smallest side. Okay. Now, how do we write this? I remember that I told you guys that for sides, we only use 2 letters. Right? In number 5 and 6, we only use 2 letters. For angles, sometimes I use 1 letter, sometimes I use 3 letters. In my case, let me use 3 letters. For question number 7, let me use 3 letters. So for that angle, the one I mark in red, I'm going to use the 3 letters that I have. So X, Y, and W. I'm going to use the 3 letters that make the triangle. But in this case, X has to be in the center. So I'm going to call this, my first angle, I'm going to call it YXW. Notice they're all capitalized. All my letters are capitalized. Again, I'm going to use the 3 letters, but X has to be in the center. The angle has to be in the center. So if you guys call it YXW, or you guys call it WXY, either one is correct. Just make sure X is in the center. If you guys call it XYW, then that one is incorrect. Okay. Now let's take a look at the second smallest side. The second smallest side is 19. So that means the second smallest angle is this one. Okay. Again, I'm going to use 3 letters. For angles, 3 letters always works. Okay, 3 letters, but I'm gonna use the 3 letters to make the triangle, but in this case, Y is in the center. So I'm gonna call this X, Y, W. Okay, now let's take a look at my biggest side. In this case, the biggest side is 21. So my biggest angle is this one. I'm gonna use 3 letters, but in this case, W is in the center. So let me call this X, W, Y. Again, for angles, 3 letters always works. Sometimes it's okay to use only 1 letter. I could have called this X, the first angle X, the second angle Y, and the third angle W. I could have used 1 letter in this case. Now you guys are gonna be like, Mr. Leon, so how do I know when can I use 1 letter and when can I not use 1 letter? Well, if it is a unique corner, you guys see question number 7, it is a unique corner. When I look at my corner X, if I say angle X, I'm pretty sure you can see which angle I'm talking about. Now, what if it's not a unique corner? What if I had something, let's say I had something like this, X, and let me call this Y, this W, and there's a Z, there's this corner. And then I ask you, look at corner Y. And then you don't know exactly which corner I'm talking about. When that happens, like I said, if I ask you, look at corner Y, I know you guys might be, Mr. Leonzo, do you mean this corner? Do you mean this corner wide? Or do you mean this corner wide? Like, I don't know which one do you mean. That's when I use 3 letters. If I say corner X, Y, Z, if I use 3 letters, then you're like, okay, I know which one you're talking about. If I say C, Y, W, oh, I know which one it is. Or if I said X, Y, W, then cool. You guys can pretty much tell which one it is. So when it is a unique corner, sure, you can use 1 letter. But when there's multiple corners, then you have to use 3 letters. What I'm trying to say is for angles, 3 letters always works. Sometimes we can get away with 1 letter. All right, let's take a look at question number 8. The smallest angle, the smallest side in this case is 9. I can compare sides. So the smallest angle is this one. Remember, the smallest angle is opposite from the smallest side. Now, in this case, there's a unique corner, right? So I'm only going to use 1 letter. I'm going to say that's the corner C. If you want to use 3 letters, fine. Use 3 letters. It works. Make sure C is in the center. So BCA or ACB. All right, make sure C is in the center. Now, the second smallest angle, or I'm going to look at the second smallest side, in this case 10, the angle that is opposite from it, I'm going to call it angle A. And the biggest side in this case is 15. So the biggest angle must be B. Remember, the smallest side is opposite from the smallest angle. The biggest side is opposite from the biggest angle. Now, here for questions 9, 9, and 10, we're going to learn a new rule. Pretty cool. It's really, really interesting. I give you guys 3 measurements. And then stated that 3 numbers can be the measures of the size of a triangle. So let's say I give you 3 sides, three sticks. One of them measures 19 inches, the other one measures 10 inches, and the other one measures 7 inches. And then I tell you, okay, you have those 3 sticks, can you form a triangle? And then you start working them out. You might be able to form a triangle, you might not be able to form a triangle. Now, let me show you 3 examples, okay? Let me show you 3 examples. Before I look at questions 9 and 10, I'm going to tell you guys what the 3 differences, but for that 3 differences, let me use 3 examples. Let's say the biggest side is 10. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 sides. Let's say the biggest side is 10. One of the smallest side is 3. and then another small side is 5. Not measured to scale, okay? I'm just saying, what if I add the two small sides and my result is still less than the big side, right? 3 and 5, if you add the small sides and the result is less than the big side, let me see. My 3, I can bend this, right? This thick, I can put it up here. And my 5 will get up to here. I want you to focus on something. There's a gap. If my two small sides, if I add the two small numbers and it's less than the third side, I would not be able to connect them. There's going to be a gap in between them. So that does not work. Let me say, what if, let me show you guys a second example. What if I have a side that is 10? And then I have a side that is 3. And then I have a side that is 7. What if the two small sides, 3 plus 7, is equal to 10? Because what if? Now, if I start moving my 3, I can put it here. And then if I move my 7, they do intersect. Those two sides are going to touch each other. The 3 and the 7, those sticks are going to touch each other. The only bad thing is that I don't get a triangle. I get a segment, right? I get this. That's not a triangle. They just overlap. I have two line segments that just overlap. I don't have a triangle. So if the sum, so adding the two small sides is less than the big side, or adding the two small sides is equal to the big side, it doesn't work. You look at my examples, 3 plus 5 is less than 10, it didn't work. 3 plus 7 is equal to 10, it didn't work. The only time when this thing is going to work, let me do this in black. Let's say the big side is 10. Again, let me use the big side is 10. And I give you one side is 3 and the other side is 8. Now, look, I want you to look at one thing. That will make a triangle. Now this, it will work, but look one thing. Mathematically speaking, adding the two small numbers, 3 plus 8. If I add the two small numbers, it has to be more than the big side. 3 plus 8 has to be more than 10. Okay, so let's take a look at here. Let me add the two small numbers. Let me identify, first of all, which are the two small numbers, 10 and 7. Now, in order for this to be a triangle, I'm telling you that 10 plus 7 has to be more than 19. If I add the two small numbers, it has to be more than the third side. Now, is 10 plus 7 more than 19? No. So no, I cannot form a triangle. Now here it says, state if the three numbers can be the measures of the size of a triangle. I'm basically asking, it's a yes or no type of question. It is no, because adding the two small numbers, it does not equal more than the big side. So no, I cannot form a triangle here. What about number 10? Let me identify the two small numbers. Again, it's 12 and 9 in this case. Now, I'm not going to tell you the big side's always listed first. No, no, no. They're not in any order given. The big side could be the second number. The big side could be the third number. You know how to compare numbers. So let me add the two small numbers, 12 plus 9. And I'm saying this is bigger than 19. Remember, it has to be bigger than the third side. Now, is 12 plus 9 more than 19? Yes. Yes, it is. So let me answer yes. On paper, easily you can write no or yes. If I ask you to type in your answer, notice one thing. I capitalize the first letter. So for no, I capitalize N. For yes, I capitalize Y. And now sometimes if I don't want you guys to get it wrong, I just give you multiple choice, yes or no. But remember, I want you to add the two small numbers and it has to be bigger than the third side. Now here, I'm going to give you two sides of a triangle. So let's say I have a triangle. One side is 12, the other side is 10. Now find the range of possible measures for the third side. Basically, what are the possible values that I can get for x? I mean, for the third side. What I'm going to do, let me call the third side x. I don't know how big the third side. Actually, I have many values that I can choose. And I'm going to say it has to be bigger. So I'm going to say here x, it has to be bigger than 2. I'll tell you guys in a minute how I came up with my numbers. It has to be bigger than 2, but it has to be less than 22. Okay, for right now, let's just say it, x, the third side is bigger than 2, but less than 22. I'll tell you guys in a minute how I got those values. Okay, so any number between 2 and 22 will make this work. Okay, you guys were like, well, what does mean make this work? Okay, let's say, let's see, pick a number between 2 and 22. So more than 2, less than 22. Pick a number. My case, let me pick 15. I'm just going to say any number between 2 and 22. You can pick a different number. I'm going to pick 15. Now, with that said, I have the sides 12, 10, and 15. Because remember, the first two were given. I just chose the third side. And if I add the two small numbers, it's going to be bigger than the third side. So I can't make a triangle out of that. Like I said, you pick a different number if you guys don't believe me. More than 2, less than 22. All right, so don't pick 50, right? 50 is not in between 2 and 22. Pick any number, and then if you add the two small numbers, it's bigger than the third number. So it does work. Now my answer, I'm not going to ask you to list all your numbers because you will never finish. It's an infinite amount of numbers. Because keep in mind, there's decimals included, all right? I can use decimals. So there's an infinite amount of numbers. So I said any number more than 2, less than 22, okay? Any of those will make it work. So we're going to call this a range. So notice I have x is more than 2, less than 22. Now you guys might be wondering, how did you get those values? Let me tell you. Look at the numbers given, 12 and 10. Subtract those numbers. I want it to be positive, so I'm going to go the big number minus the small number. Subtract those two numbers. What's 12 minus 10? Well, 2. Okay, that's how I got the first number. Now add the numbers. What's 12 plus 10? Well, that's 22. Yep, that's pretty much how I got those numbers. Let's take a look at question number 12. So my homework, I'm going to see that x is in between two numbers. Okay, the way I'm going to do this, look at the two numbers given, 7 and 10. Okay, subtract those two numbers. Again, my value has to be positive. So make sure you go big number minus the small number. 10 minus 7, I'm going to say 3. Now add those numbers. 10 plus 7, I'm going to say 17. So the third side has to be in between 3 and 17. So it has to be more than 3, less than 17. Okay, let me zoom out so you guys can see what we did today.